Boston College's offensive and defensive line of the futures all just got a lot bigger.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Locked On Boston College, your team every day. I'm your host, AJ Black of Eagle Insider, part of the 247 Network. I've been covering Boston College for over 10 years. If you want the scoops, the inside information, and great analysis, you are in the right place. We are a daily Boston College podcast doing this 5 days a week. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code Locked On College for 50% off at your first year at monarchmoney.com. On today's show, big recruiting episode, we're going to discuss the class of 2026. The Eagles land a defensive tackle, an offensive lineman, both massive human beings. I'll explain who they are and why I think this is just another great sign of where BC is going in terms of building depth at both positions. And we'll talk about what is left for BC in the class of 2026. They're at 23 recruits now. Things are starting to get packed. All right, let's dive into this first. First, Boston College lands a commitment from Lawrence Iyalekhue from Yonkers, New York. Now, he went to Yonkers Force Program. The thing about Lawrence, and I believe he goes by Shaq. So instead of me butchering up his last name, we're going to call him Shaq from now on because all his friends seem to call him that, and I think that's the one we're going to go with. He is 6'9", so you can see where the nickname comes from. The dude is enormous, 6'9" and 325 pounds. So when you're asking what offensive lineman position he's going to play, I think the answer is pretty simple. Tackle. He's a big, big tackle. This is the second 6'9" tackle that BC has landed in the last week when they added Bruno Warner from Germany, who is also 6'9", 300 pound plus. So you have now a kid in Shaq who I would say is a little more on the raw side. Again, BC's a developmental program. You're bringing in guys that you're going to hope that Matt Applebaum, Bill O'Brien, and that staff can build up into what you want them to be. And you look at the size of a guy like Shaq, and you see height and build, you can't teach. This is a big difference from bringing in projects that are 6'5", 6'4", 6'3". We've had coaches that have done that. You have a monster at offensive tackle here that if you can get him up to speed, if you can get him to work, you have something good. And so my thoughts is you have multiple offensive tackles in this class. You're up to 6 offensive linemen right now. As long as one of these tackles hits, you're in business. If you have 2, you're talking a very good offensive line. Okay, so talking about Shaq, who is this kid? He is, as I said, he's from New York. He's 6'9". All you folks out there that are in love with offer lists, this is not going to be the guy for you. And I'm sorry. It's just the way it is. He took official visits to UMass, Temple, and he had a few FCS offers. But this is another one where you have 2 choices here. You can either trust Bill O'Brien and his staff that they can identify talent and bring them in, or you can say, I don't trust them, and that's fine too. I seem to trust that he knows what he's doing. And they visited Shaq at school. They had him up for camp. They've had, this is a relationship that is built more than just huddle films. They know this kid very well. And so, yeah, offers may not be there, but he plays at a small school in New York. This is not like him playing like Christian Brothers Academy in Syracuse, which is a bigger New York school. And, there's Aramis Hall Prep, which is another one that pumps out FBS talent. This is a smaller school, not a lot of kids that you've heard of from Yonkers, okay? So under the radar, this is one that you're grabbing. You have, right now, when you look at your offensive line, you already have 4 guys that are basically your bedrocks, right? You have Mark Jen from Exeter Hall in New Hampshire. Multiple P4 offers. Guy that you really liked. Brady Beckenhuis. Bill Belichick wanted him. He is from Williston, Northampton in Massachusetts. I think both of them are going to end up being inside offensive linemen. You have Dean Rooks-Nitis, who I believe will be more of an offensive tackle. He's from Arlington, Massachusetts. You have your 4 guys that you identified early. You think they're going to be it. You have 4 right there, and then you have 2 projects. There is nothing wrong with that. That is a good system to go with. You have my big piece of this is gone are the days where you had, what was it, like 2 or 3 years ago, BC had 2 offensive linemen. Or even, was it last year they had 2? They had 2 or 3. They have 6 right now with the potential for 7. So this is a huge offensive line class. Clearly, the trenches were a priority for Bill O'Brien and Matt Applebaum. They needed to go out there and rebuild. So I'm very excited about this because you're going to, in a year, go out there and there's going to be 6+ new offensive linemen that you're building up. That is building depth and that is building talent. Because now, if one of those guys doesn't work out, you got 5 other. You're in good shape. It's not going to kill your program. This is good offensive line recruiting right here. And yes, he's a more of a diamond in the rough. And I know folks have been getting tired of hearing me talking about them, but that's something I think it's important. Now, the biggest question, when you land a guy like Shaq, you're right now at 6 offensive linemen. Folks have been asking me, does this impact the recruitment of Marky Walbridge? And I have said all along that it does not matter how many offensive linemen they bring in. Marky Walbridge will be a +1, meaning they're going to add him no matter what the count is. They have him pegged in there if he can come in. And they are selling some specific things. So to me, what I've heard and the buzz right now is it's down to BC and Michigan. And BC is very much in this. It's not as, I think some folks, I've heard Michigan folks saying that they think BC's in better shape than the people give him credit to. Because BC is selling a few different things to Marky, and it's hitting. The first, you can play right away. Think about that. He goes to Michigan, and this isn't a knock on Michigan, but this is actually showing how great Michigan is. Yes, they have a great program for offensive linemen, but they also have a ton of offensive linemen that are very good. So he's going to get buried on the depth chart, and he knows that. You go to Michigan, you're going to be one of 30, 20, whatever it is, and your odds of playing get smaller every year. You're going to have to wait your turn, and that could be for a while. So that's one piece. And I think BC can sell, hey, you're a special player. We will get you out. And believe me, look at that offensive line next year. They could sell him right away. You could play year 1. If he's good enough, you can play year 1. That is attractive. And I've said this all along. Marky is from, he plays at St. Sebastian's in Needham. He's a local kid. I don't know what he feels. And I'm going to say that right now. No one knows what Marky's thinking because Marky doesn't talk to the media. But I have to wonder if there's a piece of him that might want to play closer to home. And because I believe that's a pitch that BC's selling. And so the combination of early playing time, NFL development. I mean, BC has done a great job of developing NFL offensive linemen. They can sell that. It's not like they're you're just playing for a local team and your talent's going to take you everywhere. BC does. I mean, between Drew Kendall and Ozzie Trapillo and Zion Johnson and Chris Lindstrom and all these other guys that have come through this program, you can sell that you can get to the NFL here too. So I do think there's a really good chance. I am not there to say BC's going to land him, and I don't want Michigan fans blowing up my comments. Hey, AJ, you missed on that one. I don't know where it's at. I'm just saying I do think BC is very much still in this. And having 6 offensive linemen already committed does not mean a thing in Marky Walbridge's recruitment, in my opinion. I don't think BC would not have taken Shaq or Bruno if they thought it was going to impact Marky. I don't think that. They probably would have waited until Marky made a decision and then done it. They feel confident that if he's going to come here, he's going to come here no matter what. So that's my thoughts on that. In a moment, flipping on the other side, this is a trench-heavy episode of Locked On BC, and we're going to get right into it with BC going into the defensive tackle spot and adding more talent there. I'll tell you who they landed and where things sit with that positional group in just a moment. Guys, you probably heard of Viagra or Cialis, but maybe you haven't tried them yet. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Reje Ad. Reje Ad is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Usually, unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Reje 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast, an average in 15 minutes. Effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and control when the moment is right. If traditional options haven't worked, Reje might be the answer for you. Over 150,000 men have already made the switch. I love that it's completely online. Reje connects you with a board-certified doctor and ships you treatment discreetly to your door. So head to Reje.com/LockedOnCollege and use code LockedOnCollege to get 15% off today. That's RUGIET, again, RUGIET.com/LockedOnCollege and use code LockedOnCollege for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please visit the Reje website for full safety information. This is Locked On Boston College. I am your host, AJ Black. And if you are looking for a second listen, if you want to see AJ get on his high horse, go back to yesterday's episode when I tore into Thomas Castellanos. His comments got even worse. I told you, I'm not going to get into it. But go back and check out that episode. It's on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Now, Shaq was not the only commitment for Boston College on Tuesday. They had two for the past weekend. And the number 2 recruit was Jackson Carlisle, a defensive tackle from Central High School in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Now, Carlisle is a 6'3", 275-pound defensive tackle. He, again, going to go down that road again, more of an under-the-radar, diamond in the rough. He had 12 offers, but most of them were G5 or FCS schools. But this was another guy that BC had down for camp, and they had him visit. They checked him out. Jordan Thomas, their defensive line coach, was very critical in terms of his recruitment. He was very key, and they landed him. Now, watch his film. That's what I want to tell you. If you've not seen Jackson Carlisle play, check him out. I don't know. I'm not into the ins and outs of Alabama football, Alabama high school football. He looks dominant out there. Watching him, he's big, first of all, but he's not like defensive tackle big. I think there's more weight you can put on him, good weight. But the piece to me is that he looks like a man among boys. Like, he just looks like strong and just he's really got that strength that you want in a good defensive tackle. Like, you watch him in the film, and what I see is a guy just shoving offensive linemen, 3 yards into the backfield. And that, obviously, when you get to the ACC, that's going to be a different thing, but that's on Craig Fitzgerald. There's something there you can build on, right? If you have that strength now, build it up for when he gets to the next level, and he's going to be good. And I'm not sure. I think the bigger question will be, what kind of tackle are you going to make him? Is he going to be a nose tackle? Because he doesn't look like a nose tackle right now. You look at pictures of him, he's much more svelte, I would say. Or are you going to make him more like a 5 gap, like George Rooks or said McConnell, which I think is more where you go, but maybe they have different perspectives on where they're going to take him. I'm not sure on the defensive tackle spot where he would go. But I look at where BC's defensive line is now, and just like the offensive line, it was clearly a piece of an area of priority for Bill O'Brien in this class, and Spencer Dickow and that whole crew, because you added so much depth on both on the edge rush and at defensive tackle. And it's, again, just like what we talked about with Marky, it might not be done now. You look at defensive tackle, you brought in 3. You could have gone up to 4, I would think, at defensive tackle, but 3 is still a very good number. You have Mac Fitzgerald, who will definitely be a 5 technique defensive tackle, again, just like George Rooks. You have Gavin Neal, who you just landed last week. I think of him more as definitely more built like a nose tackle, like a bowling ball in the middle. And now you just added Jackson Carlisle, which I'm not sure where they're going to go. And I'm going to go probably more 5 technique on this one. But this is a position that desperately needs to build depth. You added in Chris Marable Jr. and you brought in, guys like Micah Amity and Sterling Sanders last class, but you're losing a lot. And I'm not sure how that's going to play out. We can't guess yet that this 5th year of eligibility thing goes through. I'm not sure how that's going to look. But if every domino falls the way I think it may, Owen Stodmeyer will be gone. Chuck Nato, the transfer from Elon, will be gone. Quan Williams will be gone. Ced McConnell will be gone. Ty Clemens will be gone. This class is very upper class heavy. You had George Rooks, but he already transferred. So I look at where you have to build here. You brought in 3. You brought in Marable. You have a couple freshmen. You have about 6 or 7. This to me is a position going into next offseason that screams transfer portal. You have Marable already, who is a transfer portal guy, but I feel like you're going to need at least 1 or maybe even 2 other defensive tackles just for depth, because you have a lot of young guys, and maybe someone like Sterling Sanders will be ready to go. I mean, he's a dude. He's a dude out there. But I look at what you have remaining and I say, where everything else is, and it's a little thin. And defensive tackle is a position you like to roll in guys with. So I would think that might be a position that you look at in the portal. Now, the defensive line position. A defensive tackle, there's still Amir Clark out there. I don't think he ends up at BC. I know he was a priority for a long time. He just visited Syracuse in the Osceola, Florida native, also took visits to Rutgers and Georgia Tech. I would think he probably would be a +1 if you had it. I'm not sure where they're at with him. I have not heard anything about him, but he's a quiet kid too. So he's a guy that doesn't talk a lot to the media. You don't hear a lot about his visits. And I'm not sure where his brain is after this, 4 official visits, but we'll wait and see. And then at the edge rush, we'll get into that in just a moment, because there's one guy I think everyone was waiting for, and we'll talk about who's left. What does BC still have left to do? And where does the class currently sit? We'll get into all of that in just a moment. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. I noticed with Monarch Money that I was spending too much money going out to dinner. Monarch helped me identify it, talk to my wife, and make a plan so that we're not spending so much, and I can actually use some of that extra savings to build on our nest egg. So you too could do that by taking control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. This is Locked On Boston College, AJ Black here, and I want to tell all my everydayers, if you have not checked out Locked On ACC, I will be on this week. I'm doing the Locked On Squad. We talk about Tommy Castellanos, we talk about the NCAA tournament, and more. You got to check that out on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. So my everydayers out there also have been listening contently about this class of 2026. And yes, recently it has been a lot of developmental players that you guys all like to call flyers, and guys that don't have huge offer lists. The last 5 or 6 guys, it feels like it's been that way. And I've said, either I'm repeating it again, you either trust Bill O'Brien or you don't. And that's where you stand. Now, there is still room left to do. Boston College currently is 24 commitments right now. They have 1 more that's silent. And then after that, we'll have to wait to see. Now, for many of you are not into the ins and outs of recruiting. Remember, this is not like your dad's recruiting classes. You don't get capped at 25. You can get any amount you want up to having your class up at 105. So they could go up to 30 if they wanted to. And what I'm going to talk about here, they very well might do that. Okay. So there's a chance that this class gets really big. There's names that are still waiting to hear about. Obviously, we mentioned Marky Walbridge. Everyone wants to know where Marky's head's at. He's obviously going, if he picks BC, BC's going to take him. Okay. Funny enough, BC just offered his younger brother, Mikey Walbridge, or I don't know if he goes Michael, maybe he's just Michael Walbridge. That's what his Twitter handle is. A tight end from St. Sebastian's. He's class of 28. So new offer out to a Walbridge. But, to me, that battle seems like it's Michigan and BC. We'll have to wait to see. We don't know when he's going to announce. We don't know where he's going to go. That'll be one. Another name committing on Friday is Nyquist Helton, wide receiver from Winslow Township in New Jersey. I feel very strongly that BC's in good shape on this one. BC got him last. He's had this planned. There's been a few other wide receivers that have come through for official visits that have not committed, because I really do feel like that's probably going to be Helton. I mean, you guys have been all the folks out there that have been complaining about the offer list. Read his offer list because he blows it away. So he's one you're going to watch for. And then of course there's Carter Gooden. Carter Gooden, we have up on Eagle Insider. Brian, don't talk to him. And I have to say, I've read every post visit, and he's done 8 of them. Carter Gooden has taken. And I feel like BC's right up there, like with what he had to say. Because what did he push that he's looking for? Development. And what is BC's biggest selling point right now? Development. What's the other thing BC was selling? Just like with Marky. You can play right now, and we'll develop you into the next Donovan Azaraku. I think that could hit. I feel more than Marky, I feel Carter is in really good shape. I don't know where his head's at. He's a quiet kid too. But I feel like BC, pending that it's not just a big NIL dump, I feel like BC could be in good shape with him. We'll have to wait to see what that one. He said he's going to announce in the next 2 or 3 weeks, but obviously if he commits, he's a take. You're not saying no to Carter Gooden. Number 70 in the country. He would be the biggest recruit that you've had in over a decade. So that's a big one. And the other one that you're going to watch for is Femi Babalola. Femi Babalola also, I believe, is committing in the next, I think the June 30th, I think is the date I heard from him. And he's gone quiet. So I don't know where his head's at. I don't know who he's leaning towards. He's gone quiet. He was talking. He talked a lot when he first was interested in BC. I had him for interviews and all that good stuff. But now he's gone underground. So we'll have to wait to see here. I haven't gotten any good vibe, not good or bad vibe. I have no vibes on Femi. So that's kind of just up in the air. But he's a take 2 if they want him. So there's 3. You could go up 3 more. And then, as I mentioned, there's a few other guys that are still out there. Logan Nagel, I've heard, is leaning towards Pitt. So guessing he probably will not end up at BC. And Christian Waring was another. I think he's a defensive edge. He was just here this past weekend. I'm not sure if he's a take. I'm not sure if they would grab him now, wait for Carter. I'm not sure where that one's at. And then there is, I think there might also be a guy or two that just spring and summer, or not summer, fall. You see them in their senior year and you go, I got to take that guy. Sterling Sanders was one last year, right? You saw his film. They blew up. Him and Jaden Fry, that defensive edge that they flipped. Those were 2 guys that they had late tape on. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's like 1 or 2 guys in the fall that they get to. So that's kind of where things are at. Right now, BC's class is ranked 28th. Grabbing Carter Gooden and Marky Walbridge would certainly solidify this class as much, much better than last year. But that's a big if. And we'll have to wait to see what happens there. Thank you all for listening. You can follow along with me on Twitter at AJBlack247. I'm doing all that kid stuff over on TikTok. It's a great community. If you are first listening here from TikTok, I'm glad you're here. Tons of people that are communicating with me I've never seen or heard from before. So I really like that. If you want to check that out, it's on TikTok, Locked On Boston College. Make sure if your first listen here, if this is your first listen, that you're hitting that like and subscribe button on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast, and become an everydayer. Be someone who checks out Locked On Boston College. Look at the time on this episode, 25 minutes. That's all you need to get all your Boston College news. I just gave you all the info on potential commitments, 2 new commitments, and all the thoughts about each one and where the staff is at. I'm an insider. I'm well connected. So you're getting the good stuff here at Locked On BC. I hope you hit that subscribe button before you leave. Thank you all for listening, and I'll see you all again tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Boston College, your team every day.